Hi there, and welcome to the What's New webinar for the latest version of Mission Control. Version 1.58 will be released onto the App Exchange on the 12th of June 2021. What we're going to do is take a quick look at all of the key features, then we'll dive into a demo and take a look at them in a bit more detail. Okay, so what's new in this release? So we've got some major features coming. So the rate adjustments is gives you the ability to manage your rates across different periods of the project. So whether you're changing through annual increases or you've agreed a certain period of time where you're going to be charging a different rate to a customer. The project budget items allows you to break that project budget down into individual line items, and you can associate and track your performance from an action perspective, recording your time and your expenses. To support that, we've added in some additional functionality to the expense management feature. We've also added in the ability to provide your customers with a read-only page that they can get a real-time view of your projects. And we've had a major overhaul of the project status report as well. So lots of new features around that area, and some additional enhancements to the daily digest, and then just a couple of other minor enhancements that we'll cover off shortly. Okay, so as I mentioned, the rate adjustments. So this gives you the ability to create different rates that will be used on a project or for a particular person with using a specific skill. So really, as I say, like if you're working on a 2 or 3 year project and you might see annual increases in your charge out rates or the actual rates that you're paying your people, you'll be able to keep a track of those, and you can track those from a specific project for an individual person or the skills. The project budget items, so this gives you the ability to break that budget down within the project. So, what areas is that project going to be broken into? You can track the billable budget, the cost budget, and then by associating your actions, your time logs, and your expenses, you can see the scheduled, completed, and forecast perspective of those budgets, as well as getting insight into profit and loss, gross margin, and the variance of performance against budget. So to support that, as I mentioned, we've added in the ability to track both the cost and the charge amount of the expense. So what you can do is apply a markup to that expense if required. So you can specify at a project level what the markup is going to be, and then you can record the cost amount of the expense, and then that will be the markup will be added to the cost into the amount field. If there are no markups being used, your amount will just mirror what's in the cost amount. So just to flag this one before we go into any more detail, this will not be available for anyone using the professional edition of Salesforce. Unfortunately, it does require features that are not available in that edition. So if you're using Enterprise Edition or above, you will be able to use this. So this gives you the ability to provide your customer with a link that will give them a real-time read-only view into the status of a particular project. So you can see you can provide them with access to the overview, to the Gantt chart, Kanban, time logs, risks and issues. You can also configure it. You might choose not to give them risks and issues, for example, or you can pick and choose on a per project basis which tabs are available. And as I mentioned, the project status report, so a brand new design really to provide you with a more professional looking document that you can present to your customer. So it comes with a cover page where you can brand that, but equally it's got a lot more information in there as well. So the project summary, it also includes the project detail, and you can also include, as well as time logs, issues and risks, you can now also include change requests, and you can actually include a copy of the Gantt chart in there as well. Okay, so Daily Digest, nothing's really changed on the design. It's only really around when that gets delivered. So we had various scenarios where customers, might have part-time people. They don't necessarily want to be sending daily digests on the days that they don't work. So you can now specify the individual days that each role will actually receive the digest. You can also it's also going to be time zone responsive as well. So you can now set that up to where it will actually go out at, like, whatever time you set it up to go out at, it will actually go out at that time for the individual user based on their time zone, and it will not go out if that person is assigned a holiday. So whether that's an individual holiday, a team assigned holiday, or a global holiday. And just to cover off those minor enhancements, so the meeting builder within the meeting manager can now support custom fields. So if you've added custom fields to your meeting object, you can use a field set that you'll find on that meeting object in the setup. You can use that to add those fields to the meeting builder. The schedulers had a couple of minor enhancements. So similar to the Gantt chart and the whiteboard, how you can choose whether the color is taken from the color field on the project, or if you want to display it based on the Gantt chart custom status colors. So if you do want to take advantage of that, you can just adjust that within the settings of the scheduler. The other thing is that we've added in an additional filter, so you can now filter based on 2 different custom fields. In a similar fashion on the color, so obviously the project has a pick list field called color, but if you want to have more flexibility around the colors that you're using, there is now a project color hex field that's been added to the project object. So what that allows you to do is enter the 6 hexadecimal color reference, and then if that field contains a value, it will that will take precedence over the pick list field value that you've set on the project. And then minor enhancement to the project overview component, you can now just apply a height parameter to give you flexibility of how high you make that page. Okay, so let's jump in and take a closer look at those major enhancements. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the rate adjustments. So to provide you with the ability to track changes in both billable and or cost rates across different periods, we've added in a new object that's called rate adjustment. So this can be used to manage a more granular level of financial tracking by creating different rate adjustments. So for example, you might be working on a project that spans a 2 to 3 year period. And during that time, the rates may increase across the project. So for example, your 2021 billable rate might be different to what you're going to be charging in 2022, or you might be taking into account salary increases for the resources that are going to be working on the project. So those rate adjustments can be used to track those changes. So we do that. We access the rate adjustments via the Manage Rates page. So if this project here, I'm using the standard billable and the standard cost rates. So what I would be doing here is just configuring rate adjustments for this one individual project. So if I click onto the Manage Rates page, that will give me the ability to access the project tab. So I can see my overall master rates for this project, but if I need to add in some additional line items, so if I add in those rate adjustments, you can see here, so during the period of April, I've configured it to where I'm going to be charging a different hourly rate. And then in May, I'm going to be increasing that rate. So obviously, realistically, I'm not going to be doing it in month to month, but just to illustrate how you can configure those rate adjustments for different periods across the project. So as well as doing it for an individual project, you can also do it for each individual role as well. So just moving over to the role tab. So I'm on a role record for one individual person, and I can see both the role-based and the skill-based tabs here. So if I expand the role-based option, so I can see that I've got different rates. So if I'm working on any projects that are using the role-based calculations, these rate adjustments will be factored in. So any actions that start within this period would be calculated at these costs. Any action that starts within this time period would then be would be factored in with these valuations, and so that would also get taken into account for any time logs that I log during those periods as well. And then similar to that, if I can also create those rate adjustments for any skills that I've got as well. So if I click into there, you can see that I've obviously got my master rates that are being pulled from my skill assignments here, but I've also added in some rate adjustments for individual periods as well. So the idea, the way you would do that is just enter in the start and end date, put in the hourly rates, associate the skill, and then add that, and then that would get added to the page. And just jumping over to a couple of other projects, so obviously as well as using the standard options, you do also have the ability to override people's rates for an individual project. So rather than doing it at the role record, we might, for example, have agreed to provide discounts for a particular project. So we can override the master rates for each person, but we can also jump in and actually create those rate adjustments. So this, in this scenario, I'm creating a rate adjustment as an override for an individual person for one individual project. And then final option there is the skill-based override. So again, individual people using the skills that they're going to be needing on the project. I'm creating rate adjustments for this person, for this skill, for an individual project. So hopefully that gives you a lot more granular control over the rates that you're going to be applying throughout those different scenarios. Okay, the next feature we're going to take a closer look at is the budget items. So obviously at the project level, we have a currency field that allows you to specify the project budget, and that still just works standalone. But now what you've got the ability to do is actually build out a detailed breakdown of your project budget. So you'll notice that we've got a new tab here that's available on the project overview, and again that's accessible. You can control that at an individual role level. So on each individual person's role record, you'll see there's a checkbox that you can specify whether they have the right to look at the budget tab. So I've already given myself access to that. So if I click onto the budget, you'll see that I've already created some records. So obviously got a few different charts at the top. So this is showing me, how much of my budget has been allocated to a certain area of the project. What categories have the budget been allocated to, and then how am I looking from an individual budget item perspective? How am I looking from a profit and loss, gross margin, and are there any variances on the project there? So then if I scroll down, I get the different line items. So these are my 3 budget items that I've created. So obviously chosen to break it up into design, development, and launch. You can see that I've specified my billable and my cost budget, and then I'm getting insight into a number of other parameters like profit and loss, gross margin, and so on. So you'll see that there are a number of sub tabs on here. So I can click to view everything. So if I scroll over, I'll get all of the different fields, or I can drill into specific information. So if I want to take a look at my scheduled effort, my completed effort, forecast. If I want to go in and take a look at the profit and loss specific as to the overall budget, and then looking at what's the P&L based on the budget minus the scheduled cost or the completed cost or the forecast. So you can build out as many budget items as you need, and you can do that via the Manage Budgets button here. So just clicking on that will open up my Manage Budgets component. So you can see I've already got access to the existing records I've created. I can quickly create some new budget items using the Quick Create, or I can add as many rows as I need to. I can also add in some custom fields to the end of the component here if I want to. I just jump into the settings and select those fields. So obviously creating the budget items is the first part, but then what you need to do after that is associate your actions and expenses to those budget items. So that will obviously drive the scheduled, completed, and forecast information. So when you are creating actions or expenses and you have budget items on your project, you'll see that you do have access to the budget item field. So you can when you are creating new records, you can quickly associate those records to a particular budget item on the project. And as we mentioned, we've added in from an expenses perspective, so you can track both the cost and the revenue it might be generating. We've added in a couple of features on the expense object. So first of all, we've actually added in a field on the project object that allows you to specify whether your projects are going to be whether your expenses on your projects are going to be have a markup added to them. So you'll see I've got this field now called expenses markup. So I've indicated that any expenses that are applicable for this project will receive a 10% markup. So when I'm then creating expenses relating to the project, I can indicate now, it doesn't mean that every single expense has to have that markup. You have to indicate whether there is markup required. So this is an expense that I've incurred on this project. So you'll see I've associated it to a budget item. And I've also indicated that it's going to have a markup applied. So I've left this custom markup field blank. So what it's doing is picking up the rate from the project. However, if I decide that this individual expense might only need a 5% or it might be a 15% markup, I can override the markup percentage for this one individual expense by putting in that value there. So the other fields that we've added in are the cost amount and the cost tax amount. So what you would be doing is entering information into these fields and then factoring in any markup that's required, that your amount and your tax amount will automatically calculate for you now. So obviously if there is no markup required, the amount and tax amount will just be would be updated to mirror the cost fields. So we're going to take a look at the read-only page that we've added in now. So just as a reminder, unfortunately, this is a feature that is only going to be available for customers using Enterprise Edition of Salesforce or higher. So as I say, unfortunately, if you are on Professional Edition, it requires functionality that is not available in that edition. So there is a little bit of configuration that's required to first of all set up the force.com site that you'll be using to provide your customers with a link to the project. So full details of how to configure that site are all included in the release notes that accompany this webinar. So I've obviously already gone through and created my site. So how this works is on our project, you'll see there are a number of new fields available. So first of all, the external project ID. This is a unique ID to each individual project that can be that is used in conjunction with the site that I just mentioned you'll need to configure. And you ultimately get your own unique link, which will be available in the client overview page URL. So this is the unique URL for me to give my customer access to this one individual project. So each project will have its own unique link, and you can choose which tabs are available to the customer on a per project basis. So you can see I can include the overview, the Gantt chart, the Kanban, the time logs, risks, issues, and change requests. So I might have one customer that I want to give access to all of these tabs. I might have another customer where I only want to give them the Gantt chart or the overview. So you can configure on a per project basis how many tabs are available. So just going to jump over to an example. So for this project, the idea being I've provided my customer with their unique link, and you can see I'm branding this with my own logo here, and using the logo field that's on the project, I've branded this for my customer as well. So I've given them access to all of the different tabs. So overview, obviously, it's giving them a full breakdown of the project, the milestone, the actions, and the checklists. I'm showing them key information, the status, start and end date, and the completion percentage. Using some field sets that have been added to the project milestone, action, and checklist objects, you can include additional fields in this section by adding some fields to those field sets. Again, information on that is in the documentation. So clicking through each tab, you'll see that. So I'm giving the customer read-only views of all of the different features within the system that you'll already be familiar with, and they can see they can obviously digest the information in whichever tab is most appropriate for them. So full access to the risk log. So the important thing to note here is there are fields added to each of the objects, like the milestone, the action, the checklist, the risk, the issue, and the change request. There's a field being added called exclude from client page. So for example, if you have certain risks that you're tracking, you don't want to include them, you'll just need to set that field to true so they get excluded. So again, just to finish off the tabs there, I've got my issue log, and I can also include any change requests so the client's aware of those as well. So hopefully this gives you the ability to share the information that the projects that you're working on with the client to keep them up to date. With regards to the changes that have been made to the project status report, so obviously it's a new design, but there's also a lot more information that you have available to include as well. So main thing to note on the project, there are some additional fields. So the report now features a front cover, and you can brand that with the customer's logo using the logo field on the project, but you can also include a hero image. So I'll cover off the hero image in a moment, but basically there's a field here where you would input the URL of the hero image. So that needs to be a document stored in Salesforce, and you're storing that URL relating to that document. You can also, obviously, already we could include the time logs, issues, and risks. The additional information that we can now include change requests, and we can now include the Gantt chart. One thing to note with the Gantt chart, there is a manual step required in order to do that. So obviously you tick the box here, and that will include the Gantt chart. But what you do need to do on the actual Gantt chart itself, there's a new button now called PNG export. By clicking that will generate a PNG file that will be stored inside Salesforce. It basically be an image of the Gantt chart, and then that image will be included into the report. So if you make any adjustments to the timeline and you want that to be factored in the next time the report runs, then you will need to come in and click that button in order to update the image. Okay, so looking at the actual report, so I mentioned that hero image. So over on the right-hand side of the front cover, we have this image. This is what we're referring to as the hero image. So by default, it will display what we're looking at here, this mission control image, but you will be able to put your own image in, and I'll just jump over to another tab here where I have what I consider a hero image. So it's obviously surfing related for this customer. So this allows you to obviously brand the document, obviously your own logo, your customer's logo, and a hero image, whether that hero image is relevant to your brand or the customer's brand. So then scrolling through the report, we have a new page here called Project Summary. So this gives me information at a really high level, just showing me what progress has been made on the project, where are we making progress, how many actions have been completed. You can also actually add custom fields to this page via a field set on the project object, and then down the right hand side we just have some indicators of how that project is tracking. So if we are including the hours, the issues, the risks, or the change requests, then these summary sections would be included. If we're choosing not to include those appendices, then they would be hidden. Then going into the project details. So what we've got here is obviously same information as before, the project, the milestone, the action, and the checklists, and key information: who's the owner, when's it due to start and finish, and what progress has been made. And you can also include custom fields here on any of these 4 objects. So there's a field set being included on each individual object that allows you to populate the fields there. So that gives me full detail of the overall project plan. I then see the Gantt chart, which is that PNG image that we're pulling in, and then also looking at my time log. So I'm showing the customer what progress was made last week, and any issues that I want them to be aware of, and any risks that I want them to be aware of. Equally, the other thing that we can include is change requests as well on the project, on the plan. So, and then just a back page just to confirm the report's finished. So hopefully, obviously, super excited at the improvements that have been made there. Really hope that obviously provides you with a far more professional document that you can present to your customer to keep them up to date. And yeah, look forward to hearing your feedback on that. Okay, so the final major enhancement that we just want to cover off is the changes we've made to the daily digest. So as I mentioned, there's no change to the actual structure of the email template. It's really just about the options of how and when that gets distributed. So what we've done is added in some additional fields on the role object that will allow you to specify for an individual role whether they actually receive the digest on particular days. So you can see here I can specify on each individual day of the week whether I would like to actually receive that digest. So, for example, if someone's working part-time, we don't want to be hitting their inbox with emails when they're not at work. Equally, we can turn it off for individual days over the weekend as well. So that gives you the ability to actually determine which days of the week it's going to be sent out. The other feature enhancement is the actual time that it will be sent out. So previously, what you would do is you would come to the control pad. You would activate the digest, and then you would set the time of day, and whoever actually scheduled that, it would be distributed at the time of day based on their time zone. So even if you had people in other parts of the world, it would still be sent out at 6 a.m. At the time for the person that actually scheduled it. So now what we've done is actually we're going to be sending that out at 6 a.m. based on the person's time zone. So it's going to be time zone responsive for each individual user. So what you will need to do is actually, if you are using the digest, you will just need to set that field to false, click on save, and then set it back to true, and click on save again, and that will update the automated schedule. So it will run, making sure it's actually sending the digest at the right time based on where those people are located. So obviously for customers who have teams spread around the world, that's going to be far more appropriate to be sending the digest at that time of day for the individual person. The other enhancement we've made is to just exclude sending the digest if someone is on holiday. So whether that's an individual holiday assigned to their role record, whether it's a holiday to a team, or if it's a global holiday, ultimately if that person has a holiday on that day, then the digest won't be sent. So hopefully that they will give you a bit more flexibility around what options you have available. All right, well, hopefully you've enjoyed taking a look at those new features with us, and are excited as we are. We're very pleased with the various new features that are coming out. So let's look at the release schedule. So as usual, it's going to be available on the App Exchange first. So as of the 12th of June, it will be available for you to download straight from the App Exchange. On the 19th of June, we will be automatically upgrading all sandbox orgs. And then on the 26th of June, we'll be automatically upgrading all production orgs. All that's left to say is thank you for your time. As I say, I hope you're excited to see all of these new features. Just a quick reminder, on our website, within the Mission Control Support Center, we have training videos that cover off all the key features, the knowledge base, the user guide. Any questions, you can obviously get in touch with the support team. as always, we'd love to hear your feedback on anything that you've seen in this release that you like, or any new features that you would like in an upcoming release. As always, please feel free to get in touch. Thanks for your time. I hope you have a great day. Bye.